So I spent a very small amount of time with them, with a few of them coming up initially with what would our sort of key parameters be for setting up clips. And I went away and built those, and then put them on there, and then showed them how to do it, and put the first few examples in, and gave them a little bit of instruction on that. And then they just kind of went away and started cracking on with it. And I think this is, I think they've so far in this game, they've clipped the first half. And they've done that as a sort of collaborative thing online where they've been chatting. But what was great is the ways that instantly boys are sort of coming up with various ideas. We need to do this better. We need to do that better. And the thing that came out of it was, okay, well, we've just got to find ways to improve. So we started, the boys started putting together playlists, and we gave, I gave each like different groups areas of responsibility.
Yeah.
And they had to go away and look at it. So the line out guys were given a little bit more, okay, well, now that you've done this stuff with Dave and with the stuff we learned from him, how can we now go look at the line out a little bit more deeply, rather than was it successful or a failure? And so they've started doing that, which is quite cool. We started looking at why we score tries and how we score tries. So group has started looking at that. How we can be more productive when we're getting into the bottom end of the field and we're starting to look like we're going to score. And then one of the big things that came out of it was we're quite good ball in hand, and we score. And I guess if you watched our highlights, you'd be like, all right, they do some good stuff. But we're actually identified that we could be a lot more efficient. But yeah. I guess the other thing it's enabled us to do is to get some of the younger guys coming in. So this is our under 16s from last season. So guys that are about to go up and play their first year in the sort of the senior team. Most of them, one or two of them, have had a small taste of it, but most of these guys will be sort of coming up into that senior setup now next year. And so they started looking at their first real taste of analysis. Like we'll have done video stuff with them before, where we'll have put together some clips and sort of talk through various bits and pieces. Yeah. But this was the first opportunity for them to do it, and I guess that's the big difference for us. Was this is them taking ownership of this stuff. And so we started putting together some attack playlists, and the boys were like, we've had Dave Atwood, can we get someone else on for the backs, please? So I was like, okay, who can we ask? And I mean, it's difficult because the guy that we ultimately ended up asking isn't quite well. But I guess the deal breaker was that Andy, who I mentioned earlier, Andy Beattie and him were in the same school team together. Cool. And so Andy just rang him and said, "So do you fancy coming and joining us?" And I was like, well, if we're going to talk about attack, I guess the England attack coach isn't the worst person you can ask to do you a favour. So Simon came and joined us for our afternoon. He came on. I'd sent him some clips in advance, so I was able to use Coach Logic to put together some clips from attack. I sent him that playlist. He watched it. He then came back in, and he basically just watched a few clips with us. And we're sort of saying, guys, I'm noticing this. Have you seen that? This is something I'd ask you to think about. And just spoke to the lads, and then they'd ask him questions. He'd ask them questions, which was really cool. He was sort of asking them, so what were you seeing here? What was your decision? What was your thought process here? He was quite complimentary on some of the stuff, which the boys obviously were going away buzzing about. And it was just a great afternoon of sharing ideas. And the boys have now gone away and they've gone, right, okay, so these are the things that we talked about. We're now going to try and address them and look at them in different ways. So we're looking at creating transition rather than just accepting it. We're looking at attacking space early, like various things. So the boys have come up with 4 or 5 categories and they've split themselves off into little groups. And I've not done any of that, which is quite cool and refreshing. I've had to maybe just sort of nudge them like, why are we putting all our decision makers in the same group? Let's maybe think about splitting that up a bit. But once they got that idea, they really bought into it, and it's been a really cool sort of tool to be able to use for the last few weeks. You just got to make sure they're getting it right at first, because how they talk to each other on social media and online and stuff might be a little bit different to how we'd want them to engage in a school platform. But once they get it and they understand what it's there for and how much it can help, it's made like I said, we haven't seen any real results yet because we're not chucking a ball around it. But in terms of their understanding of the game, already the way they're starting to talk about it and how they're talking to each other and what they're starting to project, you can see little bits are sinking in here. And if that, I guess that's probably one of the hardest things to coach at times, is that understanding of the problems that you're facing in front of you and how you're going to solve them. And so if this is a way that they can really buy into that, then that's really cool.